Hey guys, so this is today's shave. Dapper Dragon soap, Polsilver, a discontinued blade. It's just the Polsilver Stainless. It's not the super iridium, the SIs, of course, that are the kind of the famous ones in the modern era. We have a Karve Christopher Bradley stainless razor and a Declaration Grooming B13 Badger knot. He's been soaking while I took a shower, and we'll get him back in the water. He should be nice and hydrated. So this is the Green Dragon. This is a soap that was making its rounds when I first stepped into the this type of shaving hobby, and it's a pretty good soap. I don't think it compares as much to the top tier, but it definitely gives you a slick lather from what I recall. It's been a while since I've used the base. This actual soap I've never used, but um, I enjoyed the base well enough years ago that I ordered a few other soaps. A couple of them kind of went south only in terms of scent strength. They kind of lost their strength there. Now this is a blade that was given to me just as a giveaway to a bunch of guys online who responded to a certain thread, and one it's a kind of a donation of your time kind of thing where you post your shave after you use the free blade. I was actually given a few free blades, like a tuck, and I've already done that several times on this channel, and I've already made about 4 different posts on that thread. We'll add this one to the list. I just happened to grab this stainless Karve on my trip that I'm going on, and I was going to use a blade that I hadn't used with the Karve, and because I've got like a med prep that I'm kind of using, that just a few uses. I've got a Israeli red that's it's just some blades I don't have a ton of uses on, and I haven't used them too much, but because I've used so many blades in the brass Karve, which I've had for a very long time, then the stainless didn't really offer me an advantage in terms of trying a new blade. This is the B plate, if I recall. Yes, it's the B solid bar plate. So it's a neutral exposure from what I recall, and that means that that if you draw a line, I'm looking around for yeah, here we go, my little scoop. If you draw a line between hey, I can use my scoop to do it. You take a line on the top cap, and then you lower it until it touches the base plate. And let's see if that works out to be true. Yeah, looks like it. You lower it until it touches the base plate. That's also the same time it touches the blade edge. And that's what neutral exposure means. If it touches the blade edge and then doesn't touch the bottom base plate, then that means you have positive exposure because it's sticking out past that plane. If you close it down, and of course you could also start from here and go up either way. But if you form that line between the top cap and the base plate, and the blade edge doesn't touch that line, then it's a negative exposure. That doesn't mean it's a mild razor, because the way your skin moves and stuff can still have a negative exposure razor or experience that still performs very well for you. All right. So he's ready to go. He's got several uses on him, probably not a dozen. Now, since I haven't used this soap and it's sat around for a few years, there are just so many other great soaps out there that this brand just kind of sits in the background, and it's not as popular now as it used to be, probably because of the other bases that have kind of come along. The ingredients on this one, they start out with stearic acid, and then they go to coconut oil and tallow, shea butter, glycerin, and then some others. And so when coconut oil is toward the top of a list there, it often means that it's in a certain kind of category that'll give you a lot of structure, maybe not as much of a creamy feel when you give it as much water as it needs. And so it maybe sometimes it doesn't have that luxurious feel that a lot of the more contemporary soaps do. Now, this hasn't been used. It sure doesn't look like it's been used. And so I'm going to actually scoop it, not because I don't plan on, keeping it. Oh yeah, it's gotten firm after a while now. But because if it has kind of sat unused for a while, then what that may mean is there's like a little protective outer shell that kind of hardens around the soap on the top layer, and then sometimes it's a crapshoot to try to load for long enough to get that soap on your brush. And but then once you use it a few times, you're good, right? So we got a little bit more than a quarter teaspoon, and this was a pretty firm soap because it's been so long, right? And so it's definitely something I'm gonna have to press into a thin layer on the bottom of my bowl here. Now I think this is designed to get green dragon, right? Yeah, kind of a green note in there. It's pretty faint. I did get the scent kind of popping up to my nose when I opened the jar of soap. So I think they had reasonable scent strength, kind of when the soaps were new. I don't think it's. I think maybe the maker has backed off a little bit with his schedule. Maybe life has, so many soap makers on a small scale are have normal jobs, and they just do it as on the weekends or as a hobby or just to supplement their income, and so they're just not able to devote as much time to it, and so sometimes they just kind of back off, and people maybe if a ton of other bases flood the market, then they just kind of may step back into the background. So this is kind of a little shave to just remind us of the good bases of the past. And who knows, his website may still be going, that sort of thing. I've mentioned in the past about the. I'm going to go ahead and shake a little water out of my brush here, and then I'm going to pan you down, and we'll start working it while we talk. I've mentioned before one of the things that Dapper Dragon was really known for, in at least the areas of the internet where I often frequent, their scale polish. It was their aftershave product, their post-shave product. It wasn't a lotion type balm. It was more like a gel, but it basically functioned like a balm. It was very restorative, soothing. I think some of them had a little bit of menthol in them. It was a little too space age for me at the time, and so I never ordered a big amount. I just had a few samples I was working with, and I'm kind of like the traditional parts of the shaving hobby. Like some people like to use a mister to hydrate their lather, and I think that's cool. It works really well. Those really fine misters. It's a great way not to have water drip out of your brush or off your face onto your shirt. And it hydrates your lather really well and uniformly, right? But it's not that same kind of vintage nostalgic shaving vibe that I like personally to have. Now I told you about the coconut oil, and sure enough, we've kind of bubbled up and we've got a lot of structure here early on. And not that that's bad, but that's just a trait of these kinds of soaps. And sometimes if you've discovered that you like the way a certain soap lathers and it doesn't have a lot of coconut oil, then maybe that might be a little flag for you to think that if you're like a blind buy and you're just researching a soap for the first time and you read about it and it's got coconut oil high in the list, then that might be a indication to maybe buy a sample instead of a full tub. I've seen a few guys online who have just decided to avoid the dominant coconut oil soaps. It used to be they were kind of very popular. You can see how it's climbing the walls very easily, sticking up on the side of the walls with all that structure that it has. My only complaint is what I talked about earlier, where by the time I hydrate it well enough, then sometimes it kind of loses its creaminess, is what sometimes the coconut oil soaps will do. So the scale polish works really well, and it was what people were known for, what Dapper Dragon was known for, at least in my kind of watching of them online. You know, people, you know, you definitely have somebody pipe up if you asked online, hey, are Dapper Dragon soaps any good? You definitely have somebody pop up and say, yeah, they are. And but when you talked about the aftershave product and the scale polish, you had a lot more people jump in and say, I really like that. Soap Commander balms that was another product, another aftershave product that got a lot of notoriety and a lot of good comments and recommendations a few years ago. We just had other products kind of come into the market to where those that used to be kind of at the high top of the recommendation list have just had other company join them. Now see, look, we are starting to lose some of that tight structure as we've added water to it, and we're starting to have a more creamy lather-like look to it. If this is a coconut oil soap that kind of runs off of the coconut oil pattern that I've seen others do, then it's not one that I want to take quite as loose, as wet as I usually do. So this type of soap is not one, in other words, is not one to go by the look of it if you're like me. And we've got some, and look, it's got structure. It's able to hold those peaks up like that. Of course, if I tilt it over, it's got enough weight and looseness where it does fall. And here we have a peak that almost holds its own weight. Those are some attributes to look for as you dial in where you like your own personal water level with this soap, this kind of, or with each kind of soap. Those are things to look for. Let's just go ahead and use this. It's still got a little ways to go, but I think maybe I might like to go ahead and use it the way it is and see how it works out. So far we've added about 17 milliliters of water to the lather. I naturally have an oily complexion, and while it's sometimes great to keep my skin pretty supple, I went ahead and washed my beard here with just some basic hand soap, Palmolive hand soap, and just to get those oils and stuff off. I think that'll help the lather. But we've got a rehydrated beard now. After the shower, of course, it had a good bit of wetness, but you know, I got a feeling some of that evaporated. So this B13 knot from Declaration, we'll see how it works with this old school soap. Feeling pretty good. You know, kind of doesn't feel super fluid and hydrated type creamy, but you know, pretty kind of a heady type cream feel to it. We can add more water if I feel like it. Let's see how it works up here. Now, as you can see, I've got a ton of lather on my face, and I've got a lot on the side of my brush. If I were to go switch to a sideways motion, I think I'd start to have lather just kind of fall all over the place. So I want to remove that excess, and then I can switch to these kinds of motions. I don't think I'm too far off for this particular soap base. This kind is actually a little beneficial to the to those shavers who are face latherers, and so they really don't like to hydrate their lathers as much as I do. And so this kind is something where they can kind of get a decent lather pretty quickly because they like the dry ones. And you see all those textures? Look at all those ripples, and that tells you a little bit about the way this holds its structure. I did add just a little bit of water to the brush. That one I can take right now while I'm. Yeah, see, the slickness is a very thin kind of contact slickness, and so I'm glad I haven't added more water to the lather than I have. So, definitely falls into that zone of keep it kind of dry, drier than you might normally, if you're like me. It's also going to feel strange because I've got 3.5 days of growth right now. And so the stubble is definitely contributing to the way the brush feels at this point. All right, so even if, I think one of the most important things, even if you choose to go with a drier lather like this one, even if that's your normal habit, not just with these kinds of soaps, still, I think most of the time your skin's going to benefit with just a little bit extra time working it into your face. Connect so that it connects with your skin. Bonds in there to protect and kind of donate its slickness, do its job, that kind of thing. All right, I think we're good. Oh man, there's a lot of lather left in the bowl. This is just one pass, of course, and so I did not need to go the heaping 1/4 teaspoon. I could have gone with a heaping less, an amount that was less than an actual 1/4 teaspoon. So 3.5 days of growth taken down by a relatively mild razor, the B plate and the Karve Christopher Bradley. This blade has done well for me. Oh man, see, that just moves. I am experiencing just a little tugging. This is a lot less than when I used a single edge gem blade a week ago to take down a similar amount of growth. I think the DEs most of the time are, for me, are just better at doing that. Yeah, a little stinging because of the excess length. But of course that'll be gone after the first pass. Some guys would look at this amount and assume they have to have an open comb or something really aggressive, but you don't, at least in my opinion. Rinse. Well, as you can see, I've rinsed and started to kind of just kind of work the lather a little bit, because of course the brush got a little bit of water during the shave, and I mean, look how much I have. So one good thing, if you got some Dapper Dragon sitting around in your inventory, it's going to last you a nice long time. This is twice as much soap as I really needed to use. And so that puts it in a very nice little category of economical soaps by the time you calculate the soap used per shave and how many uses you're going to get per tub. Dapper Dragon. They had some other scents that I was really like. They had a few dupes, like Terre de Hermes. They had, I think, Terre de Dragon or something like that. This might even be a dupe of something. It's a pleasant smell. It's not very strong right now. But I'm not going to fault it to that, because it's been sitting for a few years now. I think back then I just saw them as a small company. I wanted to support their business, you know, years ago, and so I had a couple of samples that I really enjoyed from them, and so I picked a couple of, or they could have had a sale too. I could have snagged up a good sale. And yeah, that second pass there was even better in terms of the lather, because we're adding a little bit of water as we go. Oh man, so much lather here. You can see it's starting to get a little more translucent, but that's not a big deal at all. It's actually getting a slicker in terms of performance, better in my book. And you can see it's got more of a creamy texture now. But this is really where I like to have it. And sometimes instead of, with this kind of soap, if I try to achieve this on the first pass in the bowl before I start shaving, then I can sometimes overshoot it. And so if I run it a little drier, then I often hit it on the second pass just right, or the third pass, as we keep kind of adding water. A very comfortable shave, of course. The first pass may have left more stubble than a first pass usually does, but the second pass easily made up for it. Very nice. Then I can take this kind of extra, switch to a cross grain from the opposite direction right in my trouble area, and there we go. Yeah, nice slickness here. Now it does have shea butter, and so I imagine that's going to help you in terms of your, it's going to help with the skin moisturizing aspects of this soap, this lather. But I think other than that, it's not one that's like the more modern soaps that really focuses on moisturizing. But to me, it doesn't matter. I don't need those moisturizing soaps. A balm after the end of the shave, if I need that, works fine. And there we go. Terrific close cut. This blade works really well with the Karve, the Wizamet Stainless, and or PolSilver. It's actually more than just a Wizamet. It's the PolSilver Stainless. I can't remember if I said that in the beginning. And there we go. Tons of lather left over. 4, 5 passes maybe. Tons. So that's a good soap. I bet there are guys with some Dapper Dragon still in their collections out there. But a nice performing soap. Very good in my book. And easygoing scents. One of the Black Dragon, I think, was a little anise type of scent. I'm not a fan of that, so I didn't get that one. There was one called Scylla, Scylla, that I thought was a nice scent at the time when I first tried it. They had a handful that I thought were interesting. I think the Dapper Dragon was pretty good too. I think what may have happened is that some of their ones, like, I know I had Scylla, and the Scylla reminds me, it must have been a sale, because I remember buying the Scylla on sale. And so I think I remember buying the Scylla and another one. So maybe the Green Dragon and the Scylla were ones that I bought on sale. So that's why they're new. And I think what happened was the Scylla, even though I enjoyed it quite a bit, it lost its scent. The scent really faded over time. So I think it's in my bin of ones to sell, or ones to gear toward those of you out there who really like mild scented soaps. And it still performs well. All right, well, there we go. I never actually purchased the full scale, nice choice of words, of the scale polish. I never purchased the larger version of that, and so I don't have one of those to pair with today's shave. That would be fitting, wouldn't it? So we'll go with a Stirling balm, and this is one I've used from this location a lot because my family enjoys this scent. It's low strength. It's not going to offend anybody. It's the Aqua di Gio kind of clone, and it's very mild. So what anybody does smell of it is pretty pleasant. And my face felt terrific after the shave. Not really a silky feel because of the lack of certain ingredients, but I don't care about that. The closeness was excellent, excellent. I'm really happy with that. So this blade works really well with the Karve B plate, and 3.5 days of growth, easily taken down. And the third pass really was a pass of just kind of touch-ups, just pick up a few extras, make sure you've got a good cut. Really good shave. So yeah, 17 milliliters of water. I did sprinkle just a little bit more into the brush, and then of course whatever was on my face after the first and second pass would have added a little bit to the lather, so that's why you saw it change during the course of the shave. Yeah, I didn't really think about the Dapper Dragon and the Dunshire, whether they'd work together, because they're fairly mild scents, and so obviously even if they do conflict a little bit, it's not really going to be a big deal, but they must have some common notes, or just kind of kin notes. They really are. The hints of them are working well. All right, there we go. Thanks so much for joining me. This is Sugar Daddy Shaves, and a really enjoyable shave as we get toward the end. Maybe two or three more soaps in the bases that I'm curious about, or that I enjoy, that don't really have an amazing smell, that I started back when I had the lack of smell due to COVID nose. So just a few more, and that'll be fun. So Green Dragon today, and excellent shave with the razor and blade, the B plate in the Karve Stainless, and the Polsilver Stainless razor blade, and B13. I continue to really enjoy that batch. I've heard that the B14 has just a little more backbone, so I don't think I'm gonna think about the B14 as a potential buy, because if anything, the B13, I could use it to back off just a hint, but I hope that with age that it backs off naturally into a place where I really enjoy it even more. I'm liking it a lot as it is, though. All right, I think we're good. You guys take care. This is Sugar Daddy Shaves. Good night.